Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we're about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 287. Please turn to page 287. Problem number 138 is what we're about to do. And today's our lesson number 192. In problem number 138, we are told that we have a school in which 300 students, we are told that 300 students study either French or Spanish or both, out of which 100 do not study French. We are told that out of those 300 students who study either French or Spanish or both, 100 do not study French. The easiest and the simplest way to deal with a problem such as this one is to employ what is known as Venn diagram. So here are our two languages, Spanish and French, and we are told that 100 of them do not study French. If they do not study French, those 100 must come over here. They study only Spanish. Let's see what they tell us in the first statement. In the first statement, they're told that 60 of them do not study Spanish. 60 do not study Spanish. Well, 60 do not study Spanish, they must study French then. That implies that these 60 must study French, because they have to take one or the other or both. We are told that of these 300 people, every one of them takes either French or Spanish or both. There is nobody in this in a group of 300 students who takes neither of those courses. They take either French or Spanish or both, which means if 60 of them do not take study, those 60 must study only French. These 60 must study only French, and that part is right there. Altogether, we have 300. We have 300 total, and we have 100 that are only Spanish. We have 60 that are only French. We subtract the two, and we get a difference of 140, and that 140 must be the people who study both, and that's all there is. The first statement does the job beautifully. The question was how many study both? The answer is 140. A, D, B, C, E. Because the first statement by itself turns out to be sufficient, we know now answer cannot be B, C, or E. It would have to be either A or D. Let's look at second statement. In the second statement they tell us, so we have to erase everything here, we can't use this anymore. In the second statement they tell us that of the 240, a total of 240 study Spanish. Total of 240 study Spanish. Well, let's find out. Here is our French, here is our Spanish, and we are told in the problem that 100 of these do not study Spanish. The people who do not study Spanish, that's 100. Now don't worry about the fact I did it on purpose. In the previous example, I had the Spanish here and French here. I did this on purpose to see if you're awake. Do you understand? Just pay attention, that's all. It's not the end of the world. So, we have 100 people. 100 of these people do not study, they do not study French, sorry. I made a mistake. They do not study French. I thought they study only French. They do not study French, that means they study only Spanish. That's what's given to us here. 100 of these people do not study French, they study only Spanish. But then we are told, total of 240 study Spanish. If the total of 240 study Spanish, and 100 of them study only Spanish, then 140 must study both. And that's all. 140 must study both. Total of 240 study Spanish, but 100 study only Spanish. That must imply that remaining 140 must study both. And that's what there is. The second statement also does the job. And therefore the answer is D. The answer is D because both statements by themselves are sufficient. Should we do the next one? Let's do one more. Next one. 139. Let's see what we have in 139. Oh, 139 has to deal with median, concept of median. And what is a median? Of course, you know what a median is. Median is where you rank all the observations from the least to the greatest, or the greatest to the least, either way you like. You have to arrange them either in ascending order or descending order. And the one that falls smack in the middle, where 50% of them are to the right of it, 50% of the observations are to the left of it, the one that is smack in the middle is your median. The question here is, what's the median? What is the median number of employees per project? So apparently this company has several projects going on, and different projects have different number of employees assigned. The question is, what's the median number of employees assigned to a given project? Well, let's find out what they tell us. The first statement that tells us that 25% of the project have 4 or more assigned. Is that enough to answer the question? Is that enough for us to figure out what the median number of employees is per project? Obviously not. First of all, not only the fact that we only have information on 25% of the people. Secondly, this 4 or more, we do not know if that goes on the lower end or higher end. We don't know if the rest of the 75% of the projects have more than 4 or more. I see. So it must be the higher end because it has no upper limit. 4 or more employees assigned. So we know now it's at the upper end, but still we know nothing about how many are assigned to different projects on the lower end. We just know the top 25%. That's not going to be enough. So in other words, if we were to rank the number of employees here, let's say from 1 to 4, what should we put the percentages? Let's put percentages here. Let's put here percentages. So here's your 75%, here's your 100%, and here's, we start out with 0%. In this top 25%, we have 4 or more. And that's all we know. That's all we know. That's our first statement. This is our first statement. But we want to know what falls right in the middle, the 50th percentile. 50th percentile is what we're interested in. This is our median. First statement by itself is no good. Let's look at second statement. The second statement, the first statement by itself is no good. A, D, B, C, E. Because the first statement by itself is not sufficient, we know now, answer cannot be A or D, it would have to be B, C, or E. In the second statement they tell us 35% of the projects 35% of the projects have 3 or fewer. 3 or fewer, it should say 2 or fewer, shouldn't it? Because if it's 3 or fewer, this is 4, there's nothing in between. 35% of people have 2 or fewer. I wrote something wrong in my notes. I wrote down 3 or fewer in my notes, which made absolutely no sense, because if it was 3 or fewer, this is 4 or more, nothing that falls in between. Because we know this is the lower end. The 35. So this is the 50th percentile. Let's put down 35 here somewhere. This is 35%. And from here to here, the bottom 35% of the project. Now when we say bottom 35% of the project, we're not ranking project in terms of the quality of the projects. We are ranking the project in terms of how many people are working on it. The bottom 35% meaning the projects with the least number of people working on it, per project that is 35%, and here we have 2 or fewer people. So there you go then. If 35, so this by itself actually, this by itself does not no good. It should not have a check mark on it. It should have the first statement by itself was no good, and similarly second statement by itself actually is of no use to us, because it tells us nothing at all about the rest of the stuff. Typically I erase everything when I start a new statement. Here I did not, but keep in mind that this is the second. That's why I put down the numbers here. This is the first statement, this is the second statement. We cannot combine the two. So second statement by itself only tells us about the lower end. So again, it by itself, second statement by itself, does not do the job. We know answer is not B. But when we put them together, now we have enough information, because if this is the bottom 35% where we have 2 or fewer people working on it on a given project, and here we have the upper 25% of the projects where we have 4 or more people working on it, the 50th percentile must fall right in the middle. From 35 to 75% is where the 50th percentile is going to fall. Where are we going to have? Here is 2 or fewer. Here it is 4 or more. So here we have exactly 3 people. The middle, whatever that is, 75 minus 35, that's 40%. The middle 40% of the project have exactly 3 people working on it. And that 40% in the middle encompasses the 50th percentile, because this is up to 35%, another 15 would bring you 50th. So both of them together 1 and 2, tell us that the middle 40%, it tells us that the middle 40% of the projects have exactly 3 people, which is where the median is, which is where the 50th, which is where the 50th percentile falls, and therefore together it does the job, and hence the answer is C. Answer is C. One by itself was of no use to us. It wasn't a worthless information. It wasn't completely worthless information. It wasn't completely useless information. It wasn't sufficient information. It is called data sufficiency, not data worthiness or data usefulness. It's called data sufficiency. It was useful information, but it wasn't sufficient. Similarly, second statement, they do provide some information which is useful but not sufficient. But when we put them together, it does the job. The answer is C. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.